I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided, a huge win for sanity, even if it is only temporary, with Kaiser Permanente announcing it will pause gender surgeries for children. Plus, it's getting really hard to distinguish progressives from socialists. We'll try to help. And Seattle voters seem to be more upset with loud noises than they are with rampant street despair. That and much more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, you can support our show for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. That's undividedpod.com. And while you're there, make sure to shop our merch store. Hello, friends, and welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. I'm Brandi Kruse, getting into our final show of the week. This is great news. Man, this news came to us just after yesterday's show wrapped up, and it's good to see that the Trump administration's I guess stance on and the aggressive stance, the executive orders that they've taken on child gender mutilation are making a difference. You know, I've complained quite a bit that President Trump has put down some executive orders that are really great. And in fact, we're expecting another one today on homelessness. We're hoping that happens during our show. A little hint there. But then I kind of complain that, gosh, but we aren't seeing the fruits of those executive orders. You know, in Washington state, for instance, our schools continue to push DEI, radical gender ideology. We have hospitals here that continue to perform gender mutilations of children. And so we're kind of waiting for the threats to take hold and for some of these entities to take them seriously. And it appears that Kaiser Permanente is. We obtained an email yesterday that was sent out by their CEO to all employees saying, after significant deliberation and consultation with internal and external experts, including our physicians, we've made the difficult decision to pause gender-affirming surgical treatment for patients under the age of 19 in our hospitals and surgical centers. So, first of all, great news. But there's a lot of buts to that. First of all, they're saying pause. So it's going to start at the end of August. They're calling it a pause. So we've got to go through, 5 more weeks of child gender mutilation at all Kaiser Permanente facilities until the end of August. That seems a little bit ridiculous. And then is it a pause until Donald Trump isn't in office anymore? And then what happens in 2028 if a Democrat is elected? Are they going to very quickly restart these? I hope not. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But again, that word, a lot of you guys online when we broke this news yesterday centered in on that difficult decision. Them calling it a difficult decision. It shouldn't be a difficult decision at this stage. It really should not. And I think one of the frustrating things about this difficult decision is that they haven't reached it because the science isn't on their side. They haven't come to this conclusion because a lot of European countries backed away from performing life-altering surgeries on children. They haven't reached this decision because public opinion isn't on their side. They've reached this decision because Donald Trump threatened to take a bunch of money from them. So while it's difficult, they have to do it anyway. They said since January, there has been significant focus by the federal government on gender-affirming care, specifically for patients under the age of 19. This has included executive orders instructing federal agencies to take actions to curtail access and restrict funding for gender-affirming care. We must carefully consider the significant risks being created for health systems, clinicians, and patients. So they're worried about the money. And I'll take it. Like, look, I'll freaking take it. I don't care if you don't, on all of these things. DEI, anything involving radical gender ideology, surgical interventions for children, boys planning, all this dumb stuff, right? That they should very easily be able to walk away from, but for some reason they just can't. I'll take it if they have to feel pressured from President Donald Trump. But apparently we're a long way from these people who are supposed to care about their patients' health and well-being, realizing that they are mutilating little kids. And to be fair, and I've said this on the show before, it's not the first time that you've heard this from me, it is one of the most disgusting positions I've ever held as a political commentator in the early days of doing this show, where I felt like, I'm all for parental rights. So if a parent decides that they want their child to have their healthy breasts cut off or their genitals cut off, like, can I really say no? I regret that position a lot, and I've expressed it many times. that I use this platform to push such an asinine position, because of course there's a lot of things that parents can't just do to or with their kids because there's laws around it. There should be a law against this. So I'm not acting like I'm holier than thou and I've always held the right position on this. Now I realize it's very obviously the right position. So I'm not going to shame anyone who comes around. Who am I? I'm not going to shame anyone. If Democratic leaders, if Kaiser Permanente, if any of these entities, even doctors who've performed these mutilations want to come around and say this was the wrong thing to do, who am I to say, to shame you for coming around too late when I had to come around on the issue myself? But they're not coming around on the issue. They're just scared of losing money. So, that's where we're at right now. And they're not going to end all of this gender care for kids. They said in this email, all other gender affirming care treatment remains available. We will work closely with each patient to support their care journey. We will remain a voice and advocate for safe, high quality, and evidence-based care for patients. They go on to say, Kaiser Permanente is dedicated to providing safe, high quality, and evidence-based care to all our members, including adolescents. It's like none of those words apply. Safe, high quality, evidence-based, none of that applies to these gender mutilations. It says, we're proud of the care and coverage we provide our transgender patients. So they're proud of this. They're proud of it. I got a message, I just wanted to read you really quick, from a friend of mine who works for Kaiser Permanente in a healthcare capacity. Said, the fact that the company I work for says it was a difficult decision to pause these surgeries on minors makes me want to quit. It embarrasses me to work for an organization like that, though I'm not specifically involved in gender-affirming care in any way. And I don't think it's too specific to say that this friend of mine is a doctor and works for Kaiser Permanente, and says in seeing this comment, when they said it was a difficult decision, it makes her want to quit her job. And that's what we need. We need more doctors standing up and saying, hey, this isn't right. And I mean, when we had the therapist from Multicare quit her job, or was she kind of fired? I guess she was sort of pushed out the door because she came out publicly and spoke out against these, not just, it wasn't specifically child mutilation. It was like, you're just fast tracking these kids who come in to a gender clinic without making sure they're going through necessary therapy to try to figure out, like, why do they feel this way? What's going on with them? It was just like, nope, can't question a child that comes in and says they think they're something else, and just send them to the gender clinic so they can get care that's going to alter the course of their lives. And, Tamara Pitsky paid for that with her job, and she's now working in a private practice, which hopefully is going better for her. So yeah, I think there are going to have to be more people who come out and sacrifice their careers over it, unfortunately. But either way, this is a win. So we're going to have at least a pause from all these hospitals and clinics across the country in mutilating children. They're going to keep mutilating them for 5 more weeks, though. And then who knows what will happen after President Donald Trump. But I'm looking for more dominoes to fall here. If Kaiser Permanente did it, maybe that'll allow for some other medical facilities to just use that and say, hey, Trump, money, whatever it is, we've got to stop doing these kids. And I'll take that for the time being. As I teased, we're expecting a pretty significant executive order from the president today on something that hits very close to home, and that is homelessness. We've got, kind of a heads up on it. We don't have the exact details quite yet. He was supposed to sign it this morning, got a little bit delayed, maybe because Hulk Hogan passed away, and I know he was out posting about that. So if that happens during our show, we'll detail it for you. All right, I want to talk quickly about the August primary. I just got my ballots sent back in the mail. And I got this little mailer I wanted to talk about today, just as a reminder to some of the key races that are happening. These are the kinds of things that piss me off so bad. Sorry, I've got to hide the address here. So this is for the race in the 48th Legislative District for State Senate, which is on the east side. And it says, Vandana Slatter is the real Democrat for State Senate. I'll show it here bigger for you. And this is a race that we highlighted on the show a couple times in the last week. And it's one of those D-on-D races where you've got Vandana Slaughter, who is the Democratic state senator who was appointed to fill a vacancy. And now a fellow Democrat, State Representative Amy Wallen is running against her. So what do you have to do? Oh my gosh, you got to send out these mailers. I'm the real Democrat. The other Democrat's just a phony, probably right-wing, MAGA, right, whatever it is. Vandana Slaughter is an absolute socialist. And this is the thing, is like, so you're saying you're a real Democrat. Okay, let's look at some of the things that you voted for, Vandana Slaughter. Rent control. pay for striking workers, pro-crime policies, increased taxes, increasing down payment gifts to people based on skin color. That's socialism. That's socialism. So if you're the real Democrat, are you just acknowledging that your party is the party of socialism? And Amy Wallen, we've already said this, my recommendation in this race, if you live in the 48th district for the state Senate race, is Amy Wallen. And I'm not saying she hasn't voted for some of those things. And I'm not saying she hasn't voted for some stuff that I really dislike and won't continue to do that in the future. But, well, Vandana Slaughter's saying she's the real Democrat. And we know that real Democrats here are apparently socialists. So I'll take the fake Democrat, I guess, Amy Wallen. And I know that she's very business-minded. She actually cares about public safety. And gosh, if there was a reason to support Amy Wallen over Vandana Slaughter, that one mailer just ticks me off. I hate stuff like that. So I just wanted to tick through a couple of these key races again with that in mind. It is going to mean Republicans are going to have to vote for some Democrats. Again, Amy Wallen is a Democrat. You'll probably disagree with her on a ton of things, but at least she's willing to go against her own party and run against the state senator her own party installed in that position. So that's an important one. Same situation in the 33rd legislative district for state house. Get your ballot in the mail this weekend. This is the Burien area. Vote for Kevin Schilling. He's a Democrat, but he cares about cleaning up homeless encampments, cares about public safety. Edwin Obras, exact opposite. He's a socialist, light, and he is who is installed by the Democrats to fill that seat. So Kevin Schilling in the 33rd. Same situation in the race for King County Executive. If you live in King County, like I unfortunately do, there is no good option. They both suck, but one sucks less. So I would encourage you to vote for Claudia Balducci in the race for King County Executive. Man, I really thought I should have taken a shot of tequila before filling in that circle for Claudia Balducci, but there we have it. And then there's a couple races that I would appeal to our moderate Democratic viewer base, where you're going to have to fill in a circle for a Republican a couple times. If you care about sanity, if you care about just nudging our state ever so slightly back towards common sense, if you understand the importance of having checks and balances and not one single political party in charge of absolutely everything, you got to suck it up and vote for a Republican in one of these two races. If you live in the 26th legislative district, in the state Senate race there, vote for Michelle Caldier. She's a Republican. The incumbent, again, is someone who was installed to fill a vacancy, Deb Krishnadansan. I haven't heard a bunch of terrible stuff about her, but Democrats picked her to fill that vacancy for a reason. They want somebody who's going to be lockstep with them. And in the state Senate, if we had Michelle Caldier in that seat already, they might not have had the vote to pass things like rent control, to upend parental rights, etc. So Michelle Caldier, Republican, for state Senate in the 26th legislative district. Exact same situation happening in the 5th legislative district. Chad Magandans is the Republican in that race. Vote for Chad. Vote for Chad. He got some mainstream endorsements. Victoria Hunt is the installed Democrat in that seat. This is a numbers game. We absolutely need to start flipping the numbers in the state Senate so there's more balance there. So they actually have an uphill battle to pass crazy policies like rent control and all the crazy anti-public safety stuff they've been shoving down our throats in recent years. So if you live in the 5th legislative district, which is east of Seattle, down South King County a little bit, Chad Magandans has got to be the pick in that. If you're a traditional liberal all the way to right-wing Trump Republican, Chad Magandans has got to be the choice in that race. So get those ballots in and vote for whoever you want. I always say, vote for whoever you want, but vote for who I just told you to vote for. Come for you. I'm just kidding. Vote for who you want. But those are my suggestions. All right. Coming up next, there is an initiative circulating right now in Washington state that would require, gasp, proof of citizenship to be able to vote here. It's being pushed by the Washington State Republican Party. We're going to be joined by the chairman, Jim Walsh, to talk about it coming up next. First, happening today, 3:30 p.m., our friend Zach Abraham at Bulwark Capital is having his halftime live webinar. He's going to talk about how portfolios performed in the first half of the year, and whether, your financial advisor should be making any halftime adjustments for the second half of 2025. It's not going to be a rah-rah speech. It's going to be a straight-up X's and O's discussion on global unrest affecting the market, perspective on the outlook for the second half of 2025, plus a full reveal for how Bulwark is always looking for opportunities to lower risk, lower cost, give your retirement as much upside as possible. Hear directly from Zach Abraham as he shares insights in this free halftime webinar. Again, that's happening today. Register right now. It's not too late. KnowYourRiskPodcast.com, KnowYourRiskPodcast.com. And if you can't make the webinar, at least get a second opinion. It's free. Schedule your Know Your Risk portfolio review at KnowYourRiskPodcast.com. Okay, we've been getting a lot of you saying, Brandi, why aren't you talking about this on the show yet? We're going to talk about it today. So there is an initiative that's going to be making the rounds starting right now in Washington State. It is IL 26-126. So that means initiative to the legislature. And it would require proof of citizenship for voter registration. Yes, in Washington State, we do not require that you show proof that you are, in fact, a U.S. citizen in order to vote here. They just assume that everyone will tell the truth and honor system is great and vote for who you want to vote for. Democrats, I mean, that's all what it's about, right? So Democrats are pushing back against this pretty hard. Jim Walsh is the chair of the Washington State Republican Party. We asked him to come on to explain what the initiative is all about, what it would do, how it would work, etc. Here's a controversial concept: require that people show proof that they're a U.S. citizen before they vote.
Yeah, it really you'd think that everybody would just agree, but it's been interesting to see the governor, Mr. Ferguson, and various other activists. You'd think the world was ending about this initiative. It's a straightforward, simple step to help with election integrity. Many states do this already. We don't. So what we're saying in the initiative is, when you're registered to vote, now this is important. It's when you're registered to vote. It's not when you send your ballot in. It's not anything else. It's when you register to vote. You've got to show some proof you're a citizen and therefore a legal voter. And there's a lot of misinformation. Oh, it means you've got to get an enhanced driver's license. No, it doesn't mean that. An enhanced driver's license is one of the ways you can show you're a citizen. But you can do it with a birth certificate. You can do it with other legal documents. You can do it with if you're a naturalized citizen, you can do it with your naturalization documents. So there are a bunch of ways to establish it. Passport will do also. So it's not restrictive in that way. It is not designed to suppress anyone to vote. It's just making sure that everybody who registers is in fact a citizen and a legal voter.
So what does that mean for you and I, who are already registered voters, have been for a long time? Do we have to go back and provide some sort of documentation to continue to vote?
At some point you would, because current state law, and the initiative doesn't do this. This is current state law. Current state law says that the county auditors or election officials, so the 39 county auditors, or in King County, the elected election administrator, have to update their voter rolls, the databases of registered voters, on what existing law says is an ongoing basis. And the initiative does say within a 2-year period, as part of the ongoing update and making current of voter information, the county auditors will request that you provide the information.
Gotcha.
But that's existing law. That part is not new.
So let's talk about what will be and already is the retort to this. I think it's twofold. One, Jim, this is totally unnecessary. We don't have illegals voting in our elections, and you're just making up a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Not true. Both journalists and some reform-minded public officials have, through the Public Records Act request process, shown that in some cases, people who are non-citizens and even illegal immigrants to Washington State have been registered to vote. And I guess the Center Square was probably the most prominent media outlet that did that story and showed with documentation that there are illegal people being illegally registered to vote. Now, their status may be different. It may be they're a legal immigrant. It may be they've got a green card. It may be they're here illegally. That doesn't matter. Only citizens are supposed to be registered to vote. And we've shown documentation that non-citizens are registered to vote in Washington. Now, how much of an issue is that? That's another point of debate. No one tracks whether these non-citizens are casting votes or not. The Secretary of State doesn't track it. The county officials don't track it. There may be some federal data that would show whether these people have voted or not. But at this point in time, even the federal data is not available to the general public. So we don't know how many are voting or not. But, we had a statewide election for public lands commissioner last year, where in the primary, the race for second place was decided by 50 votes.
Yeah.
In those close races, we need to make sure every vote being cast is a legal vote.
Yeah, and for people who don't understand, well, how could that happen? I'm going to characterize it and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because we have motor voters. So basically, when you get a driver's license, you're registered to vote. And we know in this state, because of sanctuary policies, they don't require to get a driver's license that you have proof of citizenship, but you do have to sign an attestation that you're able to vote. But that's all it is, right? It's basically a personal attestation that, yep, like I'm okay to vote, and you get registered, right?
That's correct,
Okay.
Brandi. There's no actual due diligence. And we're still, in many cases, when an individual is applying for a driver's license or for other state benefits, including food stamps, SNAP, or other benefits, the individual applying doesn't always fill out the documents themselves. Sometimes it's the clerk, the state employee, who fills out those documents. So it's even worse than that. The state employee quickly says, "Are you okay to vote?" And the person sort of nods or
Yeah.
says, "Yeah, I think so." And they check the box. So the attestation isn't always even coming from the individual.
The other argument that we already hear from Democrats is this is going to further disenfranchise people, the poor, people of color. And I will say, when I read the ballot title, I know you like the ballot title or the description. I don't. The only reason is, to me, it does sound like there's this like burden on me as a legal voter. Well, now I got to do more to be able to vote. It reads, this measure would require voters to have an enhanced driver's license or enhanced identicard or provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship in person, and would cancel registrations for voters not meeting those requirements. So if we've got Democrats out there messaging, and they'll fight back about this tooth and nail, like, oh my gosh, now people are going to have to go out, make the time to get the correct identification, show up in person, even though they're legally able to vote. And Republicans are just trying to provide all these hoops to make it harder for people to vote. So how do you push back against that narrative?
Well, we have mail-in voting in this state, so you don't have to go to a polling place to cast your vote. If this initiative passes into law, all you have to do, and it could be online or it could be in person, you have to at some point verify that you're a legal voter. And it's not every election. It's as often as the local election official decides in their system that they update their database. So you do it maybe once every couple of years. It's a good, simple election integrity reform. And yeah, people are going to push back, but you got to ask, why would someone object to an initiative that is merely clarifying and strengthening what is current public policy?
Yeah.
That is, only citizens should register to vote.
Yeah. So it's an initiative to the legislature.
Correct.
Those concern me after what happened last time. I mean, we sent the parental rights initiative to the legislature. They said, sure, love it, let's pass it. And then they went back the very next year and they gutted it. So my understanding is an initiative to the legislature allows them to turn around and just upend it much more easily than an initiative to the people. So why not send it to voters?
The timing works better. Well, it may end up going to the voters, by the way. So the initiative of the legislature really goes first to the legislature. And then if the legislature doesn't pass the initiative, if they do anything else, it goes to the people for a vote. Right. So I believe this probably will end up going to the people for a vote, but we'll see. Yes, there are some parliamentary maneuvers that the legislature can do to pass an initiative to the legislature and then fix it sooner and with a lower threshold than if it comes directly from the people. But I think this is an important issue to put in front of the legislature, because I want to hear what the legislative leadership has to say about election integrity. And I think it will be useful to everyone who cares about trustworthy, reliable elections to put the legislature, at least give them the chance to be on the record about what they think and what they support or don't support. I suspect that the legislature will pass on this one and let it go to the people and let the people vote. and I think that that will also be a good thing. That would come to the ballot for the people to vote on in November of 2026. And I
Midterms.
think the timing on that works well too.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. I think that they have no shame, and what they'll do is they'll pass it and then they'll come back and they'll gut it, just like they did parental rights.
And they could try to do that, Brandy, but I think there's political price to be paid when they do something as cynical as that. I think we're seeing it with the parental rights initiative and the Parents' Bill of Rights. I think what they did, the little malarkey and parliamentary trickery on gutting that, I think that's backfired on the current majorities in Olympia badly. And I think we're going to see the effects of that this fall in a couple of those special elections for the legislature, where we know that the tricks they're playing with the Parents' Bill of Rights are costing their candidates a lot. People don't like what the Democrat majorities in Olympia did on the Parents' Bill of Rights. And I think we're going to see the proof of that this fall.
I hope you're right, because man, they're really good at lying to people about what they did. And the media is really good at just spreading those lies around. And I sometimes worry if we're just shouting into the abyss. Really quick, Jim Walsh, where can people figure out how to sign this thing?
Uh, the state Republican Party is leading the charge on it. There are
Okay.
other people involved, but the easiest way to get information is wagop.org,
Okay.
or you can contact your county Republican Party office. The chair of those counties have the petitions, and we're going to be at a lot of fairs this summer. So county fairs, you'll be able to see the petitions to sign, and that's going to kind of be our kickoff for a campaign of collecting signatures through the late summer and fall this year.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll go to a fair. I'll find it. I'll sign it. Jim Walsh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great to talk to you, Brandy. Be well.
So again, Jim Walsh, they're chair of the Washington State Republican Party, talking about their initiative 26-126, which would require proof of citizenship to vote in Washington State. And again, I know a lot of people are feeling frustrated with the initiative process because Democrats always find a way to upend things, but the other option is we just give up, which I'm not ready to do. All right, coming up next, Seattleites are more angry about a preacher yelling loud outside Mariners games than they are about the people dying of drug overdoses they have to step over on their way to the games. That'll be our segment, Unbelievable. First, if you're thinking about selling your home, reach out to our friend Wes Jones, sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com. Wes and his team have an innovative marketing strategy to make sure that you get the most possible value out of your home, which is what everyone wants. That's a no-brainer, but they do it better than anyone else. You look at their listings compared to other listings, and they stand out. There's no question. The quality of the images and the videos and everything they put together to get feet in the door for showings and offers on the table is absolutely second to none. And Wes can help you also with the process of making cosmetic upgrades to your home if that's something that you know you're going to have to do. And he makes it seamless, stress-free. He can come in, manage those projects, manage the contractors, and you don't even have to pay for it until closing. So it takes that stress, financial stress out of the process as well. So sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com. Start by using their home value calculator to see how much your home is worth. It might be worth more than you think. Sellwithwes.com, a better way to sell your home. All right, Seattleites are big mad about big noises outside Mariners games, but seem to be less mad with the drug addicts they have to walk over on the street to get to those games. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. So I went to a Mariners game on Tuesday. We went to a Mariners game, and I drove down there, and it was disgusting. Let's just be honest. I mean, look, if you live in Seattle or you go through Seattle, there are areas you can go to avoid it. And some people will say, well, I went downtown and I didn't see anything. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm not saying it's on every street, but there are an awful lot of streets in downtown, including some of the main areas where tourist attractions are and dining and shopping, where it is littered with people who are homeless, people who are overdosing on drugs, people who are selling stolen goods to be able to fund their drug habit. So I went down around, if you're familiar with that area around the stadiums, I got off on the James Street exit, and so then I went down through Pioneer Square. It was absolutely disgusting. And there were a ton of Mariners fans with their Mariners gear walking through all of it. Person ODing on the left, person passed out on a bench on the right, person selling what must be stolen or discarded bobbleheads on the corner. Like, it's ridiculous. But here's what is really upsetting to Mariners fans. This story from Fox 13 News. Seattle Mariners fans fed up with megaphone preachers. And look, I am not judging this news story. I think this is a fun, important news story. I'm not even judging Mariners fans who are upset by these preachers who stand right outside the gates where tickets are collected, screaming into a microphone about, making sure you get saved. And it has nothing to do with me, not being particularly religious, but it's annoying. It is. So I'm not arguing with any of that. In fact, our friend Bennett Hasselton, who's like I don't even know how to describe Bennett. He's just a citizen who likes to go out and hold big signs and protest things. He's more on the left, though, obviously. And he actually had gone down there recently, and he posted this on Reddit. He brought like a, what do you call it? Gauges noise level. Sure, there's some word for it. And he held it up by the street preacher as the street preacher was yelling into their megaphone as people were waiting in line.
This is not legal. You have to be below 70 decibels.
The innocent for the guilty to bring his people to God. It is in Christ that we have redemption.
You're allowed to use the megaphone. You can't go over 70 decibels. This is not legal.
So you see people walking by and they're like plugging their ears because it is annoying. And it is loud. The guy's like screaming into this megaphone. So I get it. All that's legit. And to me, it wouldn't matter if it was a preacher or anyone else. I don't want anyone in there screaming at me while I'm just trying to go to a baseball game, or you're trying to go to a baseball game with your kids. I know the baseball game is
to go to church.
No, and they're very aggressive about it. It's like, you're going to rot in hell, basically. It's very, so all of that is fine. I just find it rich, though, that is what Mariners fans are online complaining about. All the filth and disgust and squalor and fentanyl abuse and human feces and piss and all of that you have to walk through or over to get to the Mariners game. And what really, really bothers you is the guy yelling into the megaphone once you get there. And isn't that so Seattle? Isn't that peak Seattle? Oh, we're fine with unpleasantries as long as they're out of sight, out of mind. We can just pretend we don't see the homeless people and just step over them, right? And pretend they don't exist. But man, I can't really block out this street preacher who's yelling at me at over 70 decibels. And there was another example of this. So there was over the weekend, a parade in the Chinatown International District, which is really close to the stadiums, where there's been just filth and disgustingness and crime and all of this that the city of Seattle has really failed to deal with. But Jonathan Cho went down to this parade that happened, and everything was all magically cleaned up for the parade. And there's Bruce Harrell in his little shirt, and he's waving, oh, look at this. This is so great. Everything's awesome. Jonathan Cho went back 2 days later. This is what he saw. Back to normal, regular debauchery and crime and open air drug markets and selling of illicit goods in the exact same place where the freaking parade was held 2 days earlier, where the city came in and they swept all this nonsense out and had police go in there and make sure it looked all nice, because Seattleites don't mind unpleasantries as long as they don't have to be confronted with them and they can just step past them or block the view or whatever it is. This is Seattle. It's like, no, we're not going to fix anything. We're not going to fix anything. We're just going to sweep it away. So it just is like, Seattleites crack me up. And then Fox 13 took this whole frustration that fans have with the street preachers outside the stadiums, and they went and asked the city, what are you going to do about this? It says, Fox 13 Seattle reached out to the city attorney's office. They told us they're aware of the concerns related to excessively loud amplification directed at visitors to Seattle sports stadiums. The city attorney has directed staff in the office to work with the executive branch departments to find answers, which again, I'm fine with, but why don't you find answers to the homeless drug crisis first? Apparently we can't do two things at once. We've shown that. So let's be laser focused on finding answers to the homeless, drug addict, criminal element that fans have to go through on the way to the stadiums. And then we'll worry about the guy screaming about Jesus into a megaphone. Seattleites' priorities. That's why things get so bad. And that was the subject of our daily subscriber show poll, which we'll get to in a moment. So if you haven't taken it, take the time. I'm wondering if you think this street preacher situation has to be dealt with and how you think it ought to be dealt with. So we'll get to that as well as a couple national news. First, I keep encouraging you guys to take the First Mark Challenge, firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. Why? Why not? They could save you money. And if they can't save you money, they're just going to tell you that, and then you're back to where you were. So there's just no downside to it. Firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. Plus, I think one of the really nice things with Firstmark is first of all, they take all of the work of navigating the insurance industry completely out of your hands. And it's complicated, it's complex. There's so many things that insurance companies try to upsell you on and offer you on. And it's like, do I even need this stuff? Is it worth the money that I'm paying for it? So Firstmark will help you figure all that out. You never pay Firstmark anything for their services, which I just think is great. So firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. Become a member of the Firstmark family like me, Nicole, and so many other undivided viewers and listeners. firstmarkinsurance.com. Okay. Again, we're waiting on a Trump executive order. We're told he's going to sign an executive order related to homelessness that will have a big impact here, but we haven't seen it come out yet. So we're going to keep monitoring that. And if anything, we'll get to it on the Monday show as well. It's kind of a accompanying story to our first story of the show. The Olympics finally essentially banning transgender athletes in the sense that they'd have to participate in the category that aligns with their birth. This is another one of those no-brainer things. It's like, why would, at the highest levels of athletics, you allow a man to compete against a woman? That makes no sense in the world. This from the Associated Press. U.S. Olympic and Paralympic officials bar transgender women from competing in Olympic women's sports. It says the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has effectively barred transgender women from competing in women's sports, telling the federations overseeing swimming, athletics, and other sports it has a, quote, obligation to comply with an executive order issued by President Donald Trump. U.S. Olympic officials told the national governing bodies they will seek to follow suit, adding that the USOPC has engaged in a series of respectful and constructive conversations with federal officials since Trump signed the order. Female eligibility is a key issue for the International Olympic Committee under its new president, Kirsty Coventry, who has signaled an effort to protect the female category. The IOC has allowed individual sports federations to set their own rules at the Olympics, and some have already taken steps on the topic. Trump has said he wants the IOC to change everything, quote, having to do with this absolutely ridiculous subject. Los Angeles will host the Summer Games in 2028, which is a whole nother issue that we're going to have to talk about. Because what else? So we've got Seattle is hosting the FIFA World Cup, right? Is a World Cup city next summer. And they've been talking for years about how they're going to get the city cleaned up for the World Cup. Okay, sure. It'll be one of those like sweep them away just for the time being. Los Angeles for the Olympics in 2028. Like, you've seen Los Angeles. We play videos out of Los Angeles all the time. I just don't know why these West Coast cities are being given the gift of these major international sporting events when they can't even have a Mariners game without people like having to walk through filth and squalor and be yelled at by a street preacher. So this is great. Common sense. And again, it's another one of those dominoes. And that's all we're doing is we're counting these dominoes until the momentum becomes so much that everything gives way and radical gender ideology goes by the wayside. It is only a matter of time. So that's a really good decision. And we need to see that all the way down to high school athletics and even middle school and elementary school athletics in Washington State. All right, we do need to talk about Hulk Hogan, don't we? This is so sad. I told Nicole I'm not a big celeb person. I don't know anything about celeb lives, gossip. And so whenever a celebrity dies, I'm like, I don't even really know who that is. Although Anne Burrell, you said that she committed suicide.
They announced that this morning, yeah.
Man, that is so sad. And Hulk Hogan, for the love, right after Ozzy Osbourne. Donald Trump, of course, had become close with Hulk Hogan during the campaign, where Hulk Hogan had come out, spoke at a few of his events, including the RNC, did a few T-shirt rip-offs and just riled up the crowd and was obviously having a lot of fun. He wasn't even that old, 71, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it says, Donald Trump said on Truth Social, we lost a great friend today, the Hulkster. Hulk Hogan was mega all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. He gave an absolutely electric speech at the Republican National Convention. That was one of the highlights of the entire week. He entertained fans from all over the world, and the cultural impact he had was massive. To his wife, Sky, and family, we give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed. And I don't know if this is me growing up in the Midwest, sort of I don't want to call it trashy, because I know some people still like professional wrestling. But it's a very American working class
Well, back then, for sure.
Then,
80s
yes.
babies, early 90s babies, 70s babies. I guess I don't know that time frame. I mean, that was Americana.
Oh, 100%. I fell in love with The Rock.
yes.
I smelled
Yes.
what The Rock was cooking.
Absolutely.
100%. And so anybody who grew up in that time frame, I mean, Hulk Hogan. What
Hulkamania.
child? My brothers had the little Hulk Hogan.
Or the big Hulk pillow.
Bars.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Hulk
Oh my
pillow.
gosh. It's so sad. And like all these like icons from our era are passing
is.
away. And it's just very sad. And so Donald Trump
It is.
lost
And
his buddy
man,
today.
But yeah, 71. I don't know. It's
71 is not, but I mean, I feel like he's
didn't
put his
look-
body through a lot.
He had definitely, but he was still ticking. Like he was still going hard. Where Ozzy, you saw the slow decline. Like
Yeah.
he had Parkinson's. I think Parkinson's. But he was, you saw him
was struggling.
deteriorating. Where Hulk, I mean, yeah, he was on stage with Trump. He was
Yeah.
ripping off the shirts. He was still doing his thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how we all hope to go. I hope, right?
Ripping off my shirt?
Ripping off your shirt.
Why don't you
or just
demonstrate
still-
for us, Nicole? Go ahead.
But I mean, still going out strong, still going strong.
Yeah.
And then you just go one day, right?
No. Yeah.
wow.
And I don't know if I've seen, but it's just like, also, the shirt was started, right? There's always a little cut, right?
Well,
Because
I'm
you
sure
know
they're
how
the
hard it
easy
would
to
be.
tear.
Yeah, I'm sure that starts with a little cut. Maybe not in his heyday, but at 71 for sure. So that's
Well,
super
just
sad.
like wrestling, I think like the tables are breakable.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the chairs are breakable. I mean, no,
Like, what
they're
do you
not.
mean?
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Are you suggesting it was fake?
No,
Nicole,
I
no,
would never
that can't
suggest
be.
such a
That
thing.
can't be.
It's
All right.
not a thing.
No, absolutely not. All right. I am so curious what you guys are going to say about this. Our daily subscriber show poll. I asked you guys about the street preachers because don't get me wrong, like that is annoying. It is annoying, okay? So I asked if you think that these street preachers outside the Mariners game should be prohibited from using their megaphones within a certain distance, okay? And maybe I should have worded it different because a lot of people are saying, well, that's not fair to only put that requirement on for preachers. So obviously, it would have to be for everyone or else you'd run into some First Amendment issues if you prohibited. Like, for instance, there's the guy who plays the saxophone, right? But he's kind of, he's across the street, but he uses like a noise speaker.
A speaker.
And so you'd have to have rules. It would have to be the same rules for everyone, obviously. But 65% of you say yes, that you do think that the street preacher should be prohibited from using a megaphone within a certain distance of the stadium. Nicole, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
It's a no-brainer.
It is. It's out of control.
I mean, you saw that video with Bennett. He's basically got it right in the ears of these people with their kids, and they're just trying to go to a freaking baseball game.
and again, if
they
you
don't need
really
it.
cared about saving people, you would
Right.
not be trying to, blow their eardrums out.
Yeah, yes, that's not going to do anything. I still think the Mariners fans should be more annoyed with the drug crisis they have to walk through to get there. However, I do understand their frustration on this. Aura says, honestly, though, I don't care. I avoid Seattle at all costs. John.
Okay, but what if that guy came to Kent, or what if that guy came to
I'm
Bellingham?
sure he does. John, I chose no and will change my answer once the city and citizens start to care more about people in turmoil rather than get upset that a person shouted about sin, death, and redemption in Jesus. Ed Owen, if other groups are allowed to use megaphones, then so should street preachers. I am a lifeline. I agree with that. So
that's a great-
100%. I should have worded
that's
it
the
different.
thing.
I should have worded it different.
Anyone. No one should be able to use it.
Yes. Let me see. Andrea, the law rules should be about the level and decibels of the noise and the distance the noise source is from others. Let them preach, speak on the sidewalk near others, but without a megaphone, or allow them to use a megaphone in designated areas where others can choose to stay a safe distance from the louder noise levels. Yeah, and I'm hypersensitive to noise. I don't like too many noisy things around me. And so that's basically assault. Because that's
really
loud
is.
enough to hurt your eardrums. Now, I will say, if you're going into a Mariners game, it's also going to be loud in the Mariners game. It's very loud in there. All the music and the little sounders they play and all of that stuff and the cheering, it is significantly loud. But you're making a choice to go in there, not like be surprised with 70
Right,
decibels
but
in
it
your
is
ear hole.
not. It is not as loud as those decibels. Like it's not in that close to your ears.
What about like at the Seahawks games, like the Beast Quake? That had to have been a hub. How loud
So
was
that
the Beast?
cheering? Yes.
How
Yes.
loud was the Beast Quake?
Yes, I definitely think that the cheers around you can reach those decibels. But at a Mariners game, I'm not gonna give you that at the Mariners game.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yes, maybe at a Seahawks
Maybe not
game.
the one we were at. There was certainly some low attendance.
And like maybe at a concert, but even that, I don't know. Some of them are not as loud as they used to be.
Depends where you are. Matthew Cook said, I voted yes. I have no problem with street preachers exercising their 1A rights. I find the megaphones very annoying, but the question becomes, are you going to ban everyone like the leftists that use them at rallies and protests? Yeah, because that's the other thing is like, I think it has to depend on the setting, right? Because if you're holding a protest and people are there for the protest, you're going to ban them from yelling into a megaphone? It is such a slippery slope. I don't know how they enforce it. Tammy T. Shame on any idiot that thinks this technique sways people's opinions. Again, idiot. Like Nicole said. It's like, you're not winning anyone over to the side of Jesus.
No.
Okay, we'll get to some comments from the show. And yes, I do. I'm speeding along because I've got to travel today. And well, I have to travel today, so I'm speeding along to get done on time. But of course, we'll still get you pack everything in that we can. On the news from Kaiser Permanente that they're going to pause gender mutilation for kids. This one just made me laugh. Jason said, pause? It should be Permanente.
That was the comment of the week.
Oh, that's funny. Get it? It should be Permanente. Got it. Okay, good. Brian said, well, they said they were coming after our kids. They said they were going to disrupt the nuclear family, and they've certainly done that. They certainly have. There is absolutely an underlying agenda to all of this. And if there isn't an underlying agenda, it doesn't make sense. You can't make sense of it. But when you chalk it up to an underlying agenda, then all the pieces start to go together. Olden Rod, isn't gender or affirming care the same as cosmetic surgery? It is not life-threatening, only cosmetic, therefore it should never be covered by insurance. Yes.
I agree.
It is elective. I mean, it's never life-saving. They say it is because kids will kill themselves, and that study has long since been debunked. It's not true. Yeah, so I don't understand why insurance would ever cover or be mandated to cover an elective surgery. Just insane.
Yep.
Otherwise, well, unless you're a prison inmate, then the state will pay for you to get your elective surgery. If you want gender affirming care in a Washington state prison system, they'll actually take you somewhere to get laser hair removal, or take you somewhere, that's not surgery, but take you somewhere to get your breasts augmented so you feel more feminine. It's just wild. Let's see here. Brian E. I'd prefer in-person voting, but if we're going to have mail-in voting, we need to outlaw ballot harvesting. Talking about this initiative out there, which, by the way, this initiative has nothing to do with ballot harvesting. It has nothing to do with ending vote by mail. It's only about providing proof that you're a U.S. citizen when you register to vote. There's been some misinformation about that out there. Yeah, I mean, ballot harvesting, it's the law in Washington state. Democrats do it, so Republicans need to do it. I think they started the last 2 years in earnest, finally understanding the importance of ballot harvesting, since Democrats are doing it too. Stefan says, I'd like to think the progressive boomerang is about to come back. This had better be the pinnacle of idiocy in this country. One would think.
I would hope.
One would think, but I actually do believe the pinnacle of idiocy was probably a year ago. A little over a year ago. Because I do believe we've started to, for instance.
Because Trump.
Right. Like even last summer, I would have been terrified to say that I was going to vote for Donald Trump. And then I was like, that's cool now, So I do think that being a conservative certainly is a little bit less of a taboo, a lot less of a taboo. And then also you start to see people back away. And they were even doing it in the lead up to the 2024 election. There were a few Democrats trying to distance themselves from those social issues or the cultural issues that were they knew were going to cost them the election, like boys and girls sports. So I actually do think we've seen the pinnacle in our lifetime of the idiocy. It was probably about a year and 3 months ago. And hopefully it's all improvement from here.
I don't think we've seen the idiocy of the Democratic Party, though, like how low they'll go.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. We see the socialist candidate in New York. I don't know. I mean, he'll probably end up winning, but I think there's still those pockets. I mean, that's still happening.
Yeah.
I'm talking from an issue perspective.
Yes, exactly.
I do think things are trending in the right direction. There's still a lot of insanity out there that we need to rid rid our nation of. On the Walsh Initiative, Night Wolf, not here in Washington, Jim. We push the limits of stupid and they continue to get away with it and are even more emboldened now. We'll see. I don't like the ballot title because even I'll say, I'm a little annoyed at the concept of having to prove my citizenship even every 2 years. I don't want to have to go in somewhere and prove. Once I prove my citizenship once,
That should be enough.
I should never have to do it again. So I don't like that. And I think that's enough to turn off some people to the idea. But what do they do in other states? Surely in other states, they don't force you to show you're a citizen every time. Or
Right.
is it if you vote in person, do you have to bring your ID?
Well, I thought it.
You must have to in some of those red states. I mean, I've never lived in voted in an area where
if you have to
so.
vote in person with me, you must have to bring an ID. Yeah.
Yeah, Jan, the very fact that Dems are against this bill proves that voting with no ID requirement allows voting by non-citizens favoring the Democratic Party. No party is going to push for something as it pertains to elections and votings. I've said this a million times. No party is going to push for something. What are you doing down there?
Nothing. Oh, I'm messing with my shoe. It's probably my
what are
shoe
you
right
doing
there.
down there?
Sorry.
Nicole's
shoe fell off.
fidgeting. She's fidgeting.
I was fidgeting apparently.
I was like, what is that scratching noise?
Oh, I didn't.
Is there a,
sorry,
anyway.
My shoe fell off.
Where was I? What was I
Sorry.
even talking about?
geez.
No party is going to do something that hurts their electoral chances. Nobody is. So Republicans would only push for, election integrity because they believe that if only Americans vote, they'll do better. And I think that's a good reason, right? And then Democrats, they want to harvest ballots. They want, no voter ID because they believe and vote by mail that these things help them, right? Let's see. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, Nicole. I was just baffled by this noise. I was like, what is
shoe
this?
just fell off on the side there.
Let's see. Old Sub Sailor, $20 super chat. Yes, the Democratic Party is the party of socialism and communism. Progressive equals anti-American. No doubt about that. Yeah, there's really no daylight between progressives and socialists right now. They're pushing the same policies. They're pushing socialist policies. So Democrats who don't want to be considered socialists should distance themselves from what's happening. Cynthia, not going to save many souls being an asshat. Talking about the street preacher. Yeah. I love the word asshat. It's one of my favorite words.
It is a good one.
Janelle, oh, hell no. Stone Cold Steve Austin all the way.
He was my favorite.
Isn't he the one that
he
did
was a
Suck
little,
It?
Yeah, he did. But he
Totally
he also did that
inappropriate.
later. That was a little after the Hulk mania. That was
Okay.
a little later. I think that was like my high school. I think Hulk was like my childhood.
And then in school, kids would run around yelling, suck it. And they'd
I
get in
know.
trouble in the hallway. But, that would never be allowed now. But they just run around, suck it. I remember one of our teachers going, suck what? What? Suck what? Because trying to I remember this so well. He's wanted them to realize what they were saying,
He
right?
was an attractive man, I think.
Oh, he was. He was stone cold. He was a stone cold fox.
He was.
Not more handsome than you, honey. You are way more handsome than any of
Oh
them,
man,
of course.
bring back wrestling. That was fun. Remember the hoe
Wrestling's
train?
still happening. Oh, the hoe train. Seriously. It was way more fun. The hoe train.
Ah, the good days.
Oh man, but they still have wrestling. Wrestling's still a thing.
I know. I think it is, but it got weird though.
It was always weird, Nicole. It was always
That's
weird.
true. I'm talking about the hoe train.
Oh, so talking about
funny.
the deaths this week, E says, Ozzy was funny, kind, and never said anything bad about anyone. He was a treasure to work with. Hulk Hogan was also a good human. I know E used to work in this sort of music space. At least neither of them are suffering anymore. Ozzy had a rare genetic form of Parkinson's since 2003. This is a year of endings. That's
You know
sad.
what? I
Seems like
watched
some
the
years are like
Osbournes.
that.
He was the sweetest human.
Yeah.
He really was just the kindest man, it seemed like. So.
The hoe train. I'm just thinking about all these things of the 90s that would totally be frowned upon today. Oh, what was that, Nicole? Woohoo! All aboard the hoe train. Good comments today. You guys are really, really entertaining. Okay, with that, we'll get to our closing sanity check. Or we'll just end the show. No, okay, whatever you want to do, Nicole. We had a really good sanity check for today. All right, I love this response. So Baltimore Ravens coach Jim Harbaugh was asked, and this just shows the media, oh my gosh, why would you ever want to meet with Donald Trump? And he just gave it right back to him.
Donald Trump has said, denigrating things about Baltimore, including no human being who want to live there. As a prominent representative of Baltimore.
Boy, well, how you frame that question? I would frame the question like, you got a chance to go visit with the president, man. What was that experience like? It was amazing. It was awesome. And I promise you, I root for our president. You know, I want our president to be successful, just like I want my quarterback to be successful, and I want my team to be successful. And it was an amazing experience. You know, it's not often you get invited and you get a chance to do something like that as a family. You know, we were there. My daughter was there. Jim's daughters were there. My mom and dad were there. My mom and President Trump, you know, just seeing how he treated her was really meaningful.
I love that. And John Harbaugh, sorry, not Jim Harbaugh. And I love that he just tells the reporter, like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I cheer for the country? And it just shows you the way the media frames everything around Donald Trump. Donald Trump has denigrated Baltimore as a representative of the city. Why would you meet with him? It's like, why wouldn't I? You know what? And we went there and he treated us great. He treated my family very well. It was an exceptional experience. So I love when people just push back against that crazy narrative that Trump's this awful guy. He's the president of the United States. More people voted for him than Kamala Harris. So when you hear these reporters denigrate him as this awful human being, you don't think that the voters who voted for him take that personally, and they just hate you even more every single time that you do it. That has been our closing sanity check for today. A couple housekeeping things. We will have our subscriber Q&A happening this Sunday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're a subscriber, make sure you get that on your calendar and you'll get a notice about it and a reminder an hour before we start our live subscriber Q&A. We've got a fantastic episode, an emotional episode of Sundays with Subscribers today. We're going to be talking to a family that actually lived in Washington State, adopted children here, and had an experience with the pediatric interim care center in Kent, where one of these tiny babies had went, and that's the facility that was just defunded by Democrats for the crime of what? Taking care of drug-addicted babies. So if you've not signed up to support the show already, please do so. You can go to Yes, Nicole?
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, he hasn't signed the executive order you were teasing earlier, but he did officially say, they officially announced that they were going to sign it.
Okay, do you have that somewhere?
I can give you a link if you'd like, but
yeah, drop a link in.
It is what you said it was going to be. So I don't know if you wanted to.
If you want to drop a link in there at the end of Sanity Check. But so President Donald Trump, we got word that he is going to ultimately officially sign an executive order that aims to end this housing first approach in cities like Seattle and across the West Coast, and also end this quote unquote harm reduction approach. So the idea behind the executive order, and we're just seeing this news come down from Bloomberg, is to pressure cities financially by suspending any sort of funding that is being used by some of these very progressive cities to fund a housing first approach to homelessness, which we know that homelessness is not being caused by a lack of available housing, despite what elected leaders in our state want to say. Homelessness is a drug crisis. It will not get any better until you mandate treatment. Homelessness is a mental health crisis. It will not get any better until you focus on treatment. And instead, they want to act like they can put these people in homes and everything is going to get better. And that's never worked. It's not going to work because it's not what causes the problem. So I just love this. Some of these key issues that we're experiencing here, and specifically in West Coast states and in some of the hyper blue areas of the country, where they're spending billions of dollars a year only for the homeless crisis to get worse, for Donald Trump to come in and say, we're going to use the tools at our disposal to try to get you to do the right thing, to try to get you to do the thing that will actually work. And in this instance, it's not harm reduction. It's not giving people the tools they need to kill themselves. It's not harm reduction. It's not housing first. And granted, federal funding, it accounts for part of the money that's being used towards these things, not all of it. So certainly our state and our cities will continue to funnel money into the failed housing first, failed harm reduction models. But when they start to lose money federally, will that change their mind? Or will it cause state lawmakers to come to us and tax us more money because they're going to make up for the money the feds took away and they still want to keep doubling down on the failed policies? I guess that remains to be seen. But President Donald Trump is set to sign an order that will hopefully pressure cities and states to actually deal with the underlying causes of the homeless crisis and not simply throw money at the homeless industrial complex. All right, we teased it. We got it in at the end of the show, so we'll wait for what he has to say when he signs that. That has been today's episode of Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. We sure do appreciate you guys. We really appreciate our paid subscribers who pay $5 a month to support the show. They get access to our daily subscriber show polls, live Q&As like the one we're going to hold on Sunday, and also our weekly edition of Sundays with Subscribers, where we do in-depth interviews on interesting topics. The one this week is a tearjerker, I'll tell you what. So sign up today, undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com, and while you're there, shop our merch store. We got new merchandise out right now. Anything else, Nicole? No?
That's all I got.
Okay, great. Shoes back on your foot. Amen. Good stuff.
I'm going to go barefoot from now on.
No, that's
all
all right, Just keep it on. It's like an airplane. Never take your shoe off on an airplane. Never take your shoe off in the studio. Ta-ta.